So, a very good evening. I am Sushma Mohtania, Director General, India SME Forum, welcoming all our esteemed dignitaries, speakers, and all the participants, entrepreneurs who have joined us today for this very special webinar on enabling online payments for sales in the festive season. This is a special series on digital transformation for enterprises, realigning MSMEs for sustainable growth. During past 6 months, COVID has taught us it's very, very important to take our businesses online. Whether we liked it or not, either our operations, business, other functions, payments, we had to migrate our business online. It is a boon, it may be a curse, but it is inevitable. The current challenge faced by many entrepreneurs is digital enablement. A lot of people are finding it difficult to accept taking their business online. And to cater to this particular challenge, India SME Forum has planned this series specifically to help our members get online on e-commerce platforms, uh, teach them how to take payments online, be ready for any situation post-COVID and the festive season that has come up. Today is the first day, the beginning of our festive season. So once again, happy Navratri to all of you. And with that, online payments and certain considerations on while dealing with online payments, there are so many frauds also that one has to encounter. So what are the considerations? What are the regulations? What are the compliances that one needs to take care of is a very, very important area, concern that we need to understand from all the experts here today. One more thing we would like to understand from our experts is what are the kind of policies that government thinks about or takes into consideration while creating policies around e-commerce. So that is going to be the focus area of our today's discussion. So without further ado, I take privilege and pleasure to invite our chairman and a very well-known advertising and brand guru, Mr. Prahlad Kakkar, to give the welcome and opening remarks for today's webinar. Sir, over to you.
Sushma, I'm in the same boat as all the large dinosaurs of my generation because I'm challenged by technology. I prefer face-to-face dealings, and I've done all my business on the fly and on a very physical level. So going virtual, I'm just about getting the hang of actually talking to a whole lot of people on virtual conference rooms, like what we are doing today.
Yes.
So, but one thing I'll say, because I can come from a position where most of us are actually challenged by the technology, and most of us are actually very wary of going completely online because we don't trust it completely. And we don't know what the lacunas are in terms of frauds and scams and people logging onto our things. But there are a few things that all of us have actually come to terms with. One is that ये COVID इतनी जल्दी जाने वाला नहीं है. They are not going to be a miracle drug or a miracle cure for it. And it doesn't look like even any of the vaccines that have started off promisingly have actually come to fruition. As a matter of fact, all of them have failed so far. And all of them have failed because certain test patients are either fallen extremely ill or have died. So everything has got derailed. So in my opinion, I mean, you might call me doomsday soothsayer, but till the end of next year, don't even think that there will be anything other than the new normal. So if you can put all your businesses on hold for one whole year, then please do so. If you don't want to have to go into the virtual world. But if you have to survive in this year, which is very vital because our economy is down and it's slowly going to start clawing back. And the only way the economy is going to claw back is if the SME sector starts becoming healthy again. And we are right now on oxygen, if not on a ventilator. Next step is ventilator. But 90% of all SMEs today are on oxygen because of this durghatna, as you might call it, for whatever reasons. Okay, so the country is actually looking at the SME sector to revive itself, not because the government is going to revive you. Nobody is going to revive you. Remember, I've always mentioned, जब दुर्घटना आती है तो दो लोगों का नाम सब जपते हैं, भगवान और सरकार, and both are on holiday. They're out for lunch time. Okay, so you do not depend on either Bhagwan or Sarkar. You have to do it yourselves. And the first step to be viable is to go online. So you have to display your products online. You have to actually get a decent website going so that the whole world knows about you to a certain extent. And most important, that you have to be able to present your products or whatever services that you're presenting online in a engaging manner. ये नहीं कि आप कुछ भी लिख दो और चलेगा. See, there's so many people out there online today that everybody has a choice, and your attention span is exactly 5 seconds. If you don't engage in 5 seconds of the opening of your website, you have lost your client forever. Because neither does he have the bandwidth, nor does he have the time, and he's got lots of things to do in terms of floating through all the websites to try and find a compatible partner to do business with. So if you're going to do business online, you have to be extremely interesting. And my advice to all entrepreneurs who are above the age of 40, especially in the SME area, is that when you employ somebody to do your website, make sure he's below 25 years old. Because they are the ones who are most adept with the technology. All the 20 to 25-year-olds have grown up with the technology. So for them, it's a language that they learn at birth. So just like you learn your mother tongue, Hindi, English, jo kuch aap seekhte ho, from the time you're born, papa, mama, whatever you say, the kids of today say computer, they say mouse before they say mama. So they're more used to the mouse than they're to their mothers, because that's what they got hooked onto. So always remember, never go to a company that is as old as you are because of your comfort zones. If you're going to do website and you have to engage with your website, and they have to be exciting, and you have to break the mold of what everybody else is doing, then go to a young company. Go to a young company, and at best is go to your sons or go to your children, because they're far more compatible with the technology than you are. And I think the time has come when your children are going to teach you. So bury the sword, forget about your differences, forget about how they dress, forget about what time they wake up, and sit with them and learn from them the technology, because they will tell you at a fingertip what this technology is capable of. It's capable of doing somersaults. So it is huge in terms of capabilities. They will also tell you how easy it is to either crack a particular banking system or how difficult it is to crack a banking system. Now, every third day, you will be getting an SMS from your various, financial institutions. Never share your code word. Never share your details of your credit card. Never share the details of anything to do with your bank, because our bank does not ask for those details on a daily basis. You are only supposed to provide those details when you're doing transactions. You have to enter the details not with somebody else as a human being, but into the computer. So if anybody asks you, the first couple of words, the last couple of words of your code words, of your various transactional details, don't answer it. Turn around and say that I have been advised specifically by my financial institution not to divulge this thing. Or aap kahan se hain? आप कौन से बैंक से बोल रहे हैं, आप क्यों बोल रहे हैं ये सब, जब ये नामुमकिन है. Okay, so you have to learn the entire way to do business all over again. Once you have a website up and running, and it is interesting, you'll get lots of inquiries coming in online. And then you have to deal with them on a business, either on a business call or on a Zoom call or on some kind of webinar, and convince them that your product is the best, even though they can't touch it, feel it, smell it, or do whatever. And a lot of our SMEs are service involved. So they don't have a product except themselves because they provide a service. So you have to convince them that you are the right people they have come to for the service because of your experience and because of your attention to detail. And that is the most important thing that people are looking for. And secondly, how do you close a deal online? When you close a deal online, or when the person is willing, he has to send you the money, you have to send him the product. तो आजकल ऑनलाइन में ऑर्डर करते हैं, or there are lots of logistic companies which will deliver your product anywhere in the world. Not just in India, not just in your share, not even in your gaon, but anywhere in the world. There are logistic companies that it will take from food to engineering goods to cranes to tanks to anything you want. Okay, you will have to pay for that, but then you have to build that into your costs. Because to transfer all the equipment to wherever they have to go, through ships, through airline, through whatever it is, your logistical company will be able to handle it for a small fraction of a fee. So instead of you setting up your own delivery system, which will be extremely expensive, you just rely on a good logistics company to deliver your product to whoever you have to deliver it to. Make sure that you receive the payment at the same time that you deliver the product. Because if you are going to then trace that consumer who has taken your product and disappeared into the blue, it is impossible if he wants not to be traced. So in the physical world, at least उसको उसकी फोटो दिखा सकते हो तो किसी को कि ये बंदा आपको मालूम है कहाँ रहता है, and somebody tell you हाँ उधर रहता है, तो उसकी टांग वांग तोड़ के आप वापस आ सकते हो. Virtually आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते. So the money, if you are going to give credit, it has to be only to somebody you trust. Because if you are doing online this thing, it is money is to be transferred and the goods to be transferred almost simultaneously. एक हाथ से आप डिलीवरी करो, दूसरे हाथ से आप रिसीव करो into your hand. Otherwise, वो डिलीवरी लेके गायब हो जाएगा तो you will not be able to find it, especially if he doesn't want to be found. So be very careful about these things. Once you are used to this kind of, you will find that घर में बैठे बैठे आप इतना धंधा कर सकते हो that it is amazing. And you would have thought that यार ये पहले क्यों नहीं किया मैंने? You know, टेबल के ऊपर आप टाई और सूट में पहने हो, टेबल के नीचे आप लुंगी में बैठे हो. I mean, it's literally that. Now, I know that for a fact that Sushma ji is wearing her sari all the way up to her ankles. But if you look at Vinod ji, he's wearing his kacha underneath his suit or coat or whatever it is. And the motto today of doing business is comfort. From the comfort of your house, from the security of your house, khulan de khidki, lagan de hawa. So it has huge advantages. And the amount of work that you can get done on the digital format is 3 times as much as what you would have to do normally in the physical format. So the number of meetings you can have every day, you save traveling time, you save taxi fares, you save traffic jams, you save pulling your hair out, you save tension, you save everything. तुम घर में बैठे बैठे in front of a computer, you can do business across the world without having to go there. And they're sitting in front of you and watching you. Either you're on a Skype call or you're on a Zoom call. So remember this. I'm going to leave you with this because this is as much as I have understood of it, is that there are huge advantages. There's some small disadvantages. But even if there is a cure for COVID, which is instant injection leke ya goli leke aap cure ho sakte ho, even after that, I think 60% of everybody will remain with doing digital business because it is so convenient and so easy and so at the tap of a button. Once you get the hang of it, it just opens up the entire world market for you, not just your locality, not your mohalla, not your city, not your country, but the world. So remember, when you're on the digital format, you have access to the world has access to you. Now Vinod in his Kacha can come over.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, PK. I mean, that's what we love about you. You know, whatever you speak, you always speak from the heart,
Yes.
and in as plain words as possible, and it just hits the right chord. So, I mean, thanks for sharing those remarks. Moving on, I mean, of course, as whatever you said, we want to discuss with these experts um, uh, in the rest of the session, that how can we avoid all these things and how we can create an ecosystem or use the present ecosystem of digital world to our benefit. And that's what all the attendees have tuned in to find out here today. So allow me to introduce the panel. Uh, I have Shri Tilakraj Bajalia, former DMD of SIDB and also member of the board of India SME Forum. Good evening and welcome to you, sir.
Thank you.
Shri Manesh Mahatme, Director, Amazon Pay. Welcome, Maneshji. And Shri Ved Narayanan V, SME Business Head, Razor Pay. Welcome to you, Mr. Ved Narayananji.
Thank you so much.
And the panel will be moderated by Shri Vinod Kumar, Honorable President of India SME Forum. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Sushma. Well, PK outlined the reason why we are going into this entire digital transformation bit. Well, the most important thing here to consider is that, you know, in the morning I was talking about to some of the people that have again joined now, the fact that we were talking about a group of women who were primarily into beauty business, which was beauty parlors, spas, and all that across the country. And what we figured out was during the COVID, they had absolutely nothing
business
to hold on to. And what thereafter has transpired is that we reached out to all of them and said, why don't you just take precautions, take the PPE kit and whatever else you can lay your hands on in terms of safety, whatever is prescribed by the government, and add a page on Google, which is free of cost. So Google Business, which should outline in the very name itself that you have a beauty business, or you are doing a haircut, or you're doing you're a hairdresser, or whatever else, and specifically for women and all that. And with the result, 300 of those women got back to us and said that we've tried it and we've loved it. And 90 of those got as busy as 3 appointments a day. So we've seen this transformation happen amazingly. And we couldn't agree more in terms of the fact that this pandemic has come as a blessing in disguise to our micro, small, medium enterprises. Those of the enterprises that have been constantly talking about, you know, we will find time, we are too busy with work, and we are trying to, you know, somehow take a break and then reinvent the organization. I mean, this was a godsend for all of them. They had all the time in the world to actually think, reinvent, and look at all the various possibilities of setting up, you know, reinventing the business, setting up digital processes, looking at how they can actually create mechanisms for engaging their customers, mechanisms for, you know, reporting on their employees, and so on and so forth. Now, one of the most important things that happened during this time was, thanks to e-commerce companies and the logistic providers, which sort of said that, you know, we can't be at the back end of this, we need to be at the front end, we need to be out there to reach essential supplies to people. Because even people were not ready to go out of their homes, especially during the you know, high summer months. So it was during this time that e-commerce companies took the plunge and said, you know, readied a group of people who could go door to door and deliver stuff and all that. And a lot of small and medium enterprises have used that as the best basis to actually reach out stuff, including eatables, foods, essentials, and all of that. I have myself ordered from various e-commerce portals, including Amazon and all, lots of sanitizers, masks, all the essentials. And thanks to their people who even at that time dared to come out and deliver when, even no shops or anybody were allowed. And when we used to go to medical shops, there were huge queues. So you couldn't actually be in a queue and, become part of the pandemic itself. So that is one thing that has happened. And the other thing that has happened is what we saw: a lot of small, medium enterprises go online, set up online mechanisms, websites, got onto e-commerce platforms, and so on and so forth. So today's episode that we are talking about is going to be about, now that you have the festive season which is coming up, which means all this time most Indians have sort of not cared about spending. They have tried to keep money back with them all this time in terms of saving, because nobody's sure about what's going to happen in the future. But now, when people are thinking of buying without taking the risk, even though malls and all have been open, footfalls are not many, but people still want to buy, people want to try. And this is a time when e-commerce has come to the rescue of micro, small, and medium enterprises. Now, at this point in time, those enterprises that are already online, we will today establish what are the primary means for this e-commerce, I would say, enterprise, which is going on to e-commerce, to be able to get payments. And what are the rules, regulations, how do you do that, and how easy is it to set up something like that? So I welcome Mr. Batalia, Vednarayan, and Manish to this discussion. And obviously PK is already there. So he will button as and when we need him. So the first thing, I want to reach out to Mr. Batalia. So we've had a situation where constantly the Reserve Bank of India has been talking about various payment gateways, various mechanisms of payments, making it smoother. We started with the RTGS, then we went on to the NEFT, then we went on to NEFT round the clock. Now we are going to RTGS round the clock. And at the same time, the fintech environment that has been built in this country, with so many of our entrepreneurs, looking at this entire requirement problem area, there's a lot many payment providers, gateways, and so on and so forth, which have come into the market. What do you feel is the current scenario overall when it comes to payments and payment realization for the enterprise?
Thanks, Vinodji. You see this after Nilekini committee report. After that, Reserve Bank, in fact, they have made almost more than 20 recommendations. And based on that, the Reserve Bank has initiated action in most of those recommendations, and some have been implemented. When we talk about the ecosystem, I think India's ecosystem is very well developed now. Today, we have one of the best ecosystem in the world. If we talk about UPI, I think it is, even in the world, it is being talked that it should be extended over to other countries like Singapore, UAE, or Nepal, other countries. And you see this now, RTGS, that was the main for larger payments. Now it is again, RBI has extended the time period 24 hours now. So this is mainly for large payments. Now, after that, NEFT is again, it is 365 days, 24/7, and there are no charges on that. Banks are not making any charge. So this is almost free. So this is a very good gateway for making the payments. Other than that, you see this now, this immediate payment system, where you can immediately make the payments. But if we see the progress, UPI, IMPS, PPIs, they are doing very well. But during the COVID, if we take that, generally the cash in circulation was in 11%, 11.2%, 11.5% of the GDP, mainly for the last 3-4 years. And after February in India, in April, it went up to 21%. all the transactions, digital transaction, whether in immediate payments, whether UPI, whether it is RTGS, have substantially come down by more than 25%. So there was a substantial decline. But now if we see in June, UPI has picked up substantially. There are almost 237% increases there. Again, POS and Rupee card, they are also doing very well. So payments, I feel the question is now on the acceptance side. The ecosystem is very well developed. There is no doubt that frauds are taking place. RBI, in fact, they have appointed ombudsman for digital payments. In fact, they are thinking of a system where based on the machine immediately solution could be provided, or maybe within 24 hours to 2 days, all these solutions related with the fraud payments, these can be done. So RBI is taking all the precautions, but mainly on acceptance side, you see this major part is the trust, confidence of the person who is going to use it. And that's why on acceptance side, there is a gap. There is a gap. The UPI has been making substantial improvement. If we see that over a period of time, almost 97% of the transactions are happening through digital platform. And almost 10 crore transactions per day are happening with the value of 6 lakh crores. So there are substantial channels available for making the payments. Even when the person doesn't have the account, there is a system that he can remit the money, he can get the money. So there are systems. Only thing is one has to be very, very careful about his transaction, as Mr. Kakkar was earlier mentioning, because these frauds are happening either due to greed. When somebody says that you have got a big award or this much money is coming to your account, you please tell me your password and this thing, and this will be transferred to your account. Or they find out many other ways, and these frauds are happening. Even through phishing also some frauds are happening. But mainly the person who is using it, we have to be careful. Now, when we come to the SME side, you see this SME, now this season, festival season, we know that which are the products which are going to be sold. Generally, which are the products during this season, during festival seasons, the people are going to buy. SME units, it is difficult for them, or dealers or aggregators, they sell through them, who immediately get the payment. Now, these days, we are saying that through Amazon, you see this. I am in a society where almost every day about 1,000 of parcels are coming in one building, in one society. Similarly, if you see a big van is coming in the morning, early morning, full of these boxes, various parcels, and these are happening. But now SME, when somebody like the aggregator or the dealer, when he gets the money, that money has to be transmitted to the SME unit. Now that is how many days it takes. Whether the moment he gets, generally these days payments are happening online, either when you receive the material or when you order the material. So immediately you are getting the payment. But SMEs, how many days they take for getting the payment? I think that period should also be related, that immediately they get the payment. It should be passed on to the SME. That is the issue, that gap remains. Otherwise, I find that the channels are good and are supporting all sort of units, whether it is a large unit, whether it is a SME units, or whether it is an individual. So facilities are available. Only we have to make use of that.
Excellent, sir. Thank you very much. I'd like Manish to, just give us an introduction from his point of view in terms of and I also reach out to my YouTube guys. We have around 300 odd people who have joined on YouTube. So please feel free to put in your questions in the comments, and I will pick that up from YouTube and pose that also to the speakers. With that, I'd like to welcome Manish and have his opening statement on Amazon. What does Amazon do? How do you enable the entire ecosystem when it comes to payments? and how does the micro, small, medium enterprise sector benefit generally from this?
Thank you, Vinod. Hi, my name is Manish. I represent and I work for the payments entity of Amazon, which is called Amazon Pay. So I don't work for the marketplace. The marketplace is our client as a merchant, and I, my company and my team provides online payment collection for Amazon.in. In addition to providing online payment collection for about 11,000 online merchants and a few single-digit million physical store merchants, mom and pop store, kirana stores where you can accept a digital payment using Amazon Pay. So that's what I do, and I'm very happy to be here. With this really good list of speakers, and happy to add value and share my perspective. I would just make one statement to start with, and depending on how you want to steer this and what questions you have, I can specify the rest of the questions. If I were a SME or a micro or a small or medium business today, I would do whatever it takes to follow the customer. Now, my customer could be an end user, or it could be another business or another micro or small business, and therefore I would see how are my customers changing and how is my customer behavior moving, and what can I do to follow that journey. And just to give you a good sense, right? If you 3 years ago, in the payments business, payments ecosystem or the payments industry, when we used to speak about some numbers, about 80 to 90 million customers was the estimate of how many customers had ever made a digital transaction, which is not cash withdrawal. So leave out cash withdrawal. Some digital transaction, whether swiped at a POS terminal or paid online or one of those, right? The number was broadly about 80 to 90 million who had ever done this. In the last 3 years, that number has more than doubled. Right. So digital adoption in India has just gotten to that hockey stick curve. And the estimates right now are anywhere between 170 to 180 to about 200 million customers who are digitally enabled. Now, when I say digitally enabled, these are customers who have done some activity or the other in terms of being ready or having already done a digital transaction. They might have created their UPI handle by registering, let's say, on an Amazon Pay or a Google Pay or whatever, right? Or they might have done a transaction somewhere. That number is now close to 200 million or 20 crores. India overall is far ahead than other markets in terms of financial inclusion per se. So 800 or 900 million bank accounts, right? And interestingly, even the Jan Dhan bank accounts are e-commerce enabled, right? So just so you know, you can have a Jan Dhan bank account and still go and buy on Amazon or Flipkart or any other merchant. So it's far ahead. The other piece that any micro entrepreneur or a small business owner could think about is, hey, what about frauds? And that is where our regulators' foresight and prudence comes into place. I think the way our regulator has steered this online payments industry is extremely positive, right? What they've done is they've always kept the customer at the heart of their thinking. So if you are a merchant who's receiving payments, what they've done is all transactions today in India require a second factor. So by default, the person receiving the payment does not have any financial risk for a transaction, because those transactions are sort of covered in terms of transaction risk. So as a business selling online, even if a customer's account was say compromised, or there was some issue by which the transaction, as a merchant, you don't have anything to worry, or a business receiving the money. So I think that the approach followed also. So three key messages, right? From a customer's perspective and an access perspective, India solved the problem to a great extent in the last 3 to 4 years. So India is ready. As in terms of different payment methods available, there are multiple different routes. So if you're a business to business, if you sell, or if your customers are other businesses, there are multiple different routes, and Mr. Bajalia spoke about them. There's RTGS, there's NEFT, etc., and that's now These are now working 24/7. There are no issues in limits, etc. Or if you want to accept online payments, there are multiple different payment methods, including UPI or just credit, debit cards, etc. If your consumers are end consumers. So that's the second piece. There are a range of different payment methods. The third piece is getting online is absolutely simple. So unlike earlier where you had to find somebody to create a website, now there are simple ready the companies that actually give you websites where you can start selling online in a matter of hours.
Yes.
Right. And it covers a large spectrum. So either you can sign up with a marketplace or you can have your own website with your own domain, and the range is in between, right? So things like Shopify, etc., where you can actually have a store created online with a common provider, etc. And some of them come with payments, some of them don't. And even the payments ecosystem, whether it's Amazon Pay, including Razorpay, and the industry is making a lot of effort to make it very easy to accept payments. And by the way, to Mr. Bajala's question, all payments done online, usually with most payment gateways, are received next day in the morning. So there is no issue, or it doesn't take. You don't have to wait for a long time. So my first message to the audience and the community is everything is ready. Customers are ready. Systems and bank systems and payment methods are ready. There is fraud. There is a lot being done to protect fraud, and from a merchant perspective or a business owner perspective, there is very little you have to worry about doing it. And getting set up is ready. I want to end with a very small example. And I'll take an example which is very close. My brother is a doctor, and he runs his own small maternity home, and it's in a very rural part of Goa. For some reason, and he knows best, and I can try to convince him as much as I could, but he just doesn't want to move out of there now, right? And in spite of getting the best degrees and gold medals and everything, he chose to stay in that village.
Lovely.
But look at how digitization has changed his life. Just getting on Google, right, and a good rating system, right? He tells me that 60 to 65% of his business is coming from big cities around and away, about 50-60 kilometers away, just by word of mouth and Google and all the ratings that he's getting. So this is just how transformational it can become. So now he tells me, why are you going and wasting your life in a big metro? See what I'm doing here, right? So this is just one example of how transformative a digital journey business too. It can just unlock markets that you've never thought of. So back to you, Vinod. Vinodji.
I agree, Manish. In fact, for those of us that have come back from the US and set up in India, I mean, that is precisely the exact analogy that we generally use to ourselves. What we are doing here, sometimes seems very, very, because those things you can't do in the US. You can do other things. There are better things to be done. But, the transformation that is coming into interior India, wherein small sellers, what Sushma ji was talking about earlier, small sellers from small Mofussil areas are coming out and supporting, this entire thing of supporting their village, supporting, the groups of farmers. Those are the real stories of the hinterland in India. And those are the stories that need to come out. And this amazing transformation that is happening around the country. And it's thanks to, people like your brother, amazing resilience to stay there and then make it a success there and be sort of a poster card for other people to come and, why don't you come and, go into a rural area. So I move on to Ved Narayan. Please tell us, how does Razorpay fit into this entire thing, and what is your perspective of the ecosystem that is currently being offered to small, medium enterprises in India?
Yeah, thank you so much, Vinodji, and a very good evening to all of the attendees. I hope all of them are safe, their families are safe, their colleagues and employees, everybody is safe. I know we live in pretty unprecedented times, and I hope everybody is safe and healthy wherever they are, whichever part of the country they are in. And I take care of the SME business practice at Razorpay, and Razorpay has been in the news recently as well. We were recently crowned earlier this week as India's 26th unicorn with a valuation of $1 billion and above. We are the 6th in this pandemic year to have achieved this distinction. The unique thing about Razorpay is the fact that we are the only B2B focused player which is focused on the Indian geography which is part of this list of 26 unicorns. Everybody else is B2C or focused or have their focus in other geographies beyond India. We're the only India-focused B2B company in this list of unicorns. We have over 1 million SMEs and startups as part of our entire portfolio. And started by a couple of IIT Roorkee, students. It was started off in Jaipur, and then we moved to Bangalore eventually. And we've grown a lot over the last 5-6 years. We started off as a payment gateway. We were better known for our payment gateway suite of solutions, which allowed businesses to be able to receive funds from their customers. And we provided a whole host of solutions which actually enabled businesses to do that. Payment gateway, payment links, payment pages, etc. Payment buttons, something that we've launched recently. Over the last couple of years, we have metamorphosed to offering an end-to-end suite of money movement solutions, which extend beyond just receivables, which allow businesses to be able to receive funds. In the last couple of years, we've launched a slew of business banking applications, which essentially reinvent the way business banking is done in the country, which is being offered under the Razorpay X umbrella. We've also offered a third business unit, which offers lines of working capital credit and cash advances for eligible SMEs and startups. So we have 3 different business units now. We've got the payments vertical, which takes care of inward money movement. We've got business banking or Razorpay X, which takes care of, amongst other things, payouts, current account facility, employee salary disbursement for payroll, payouts for raw material suppliers, vendor partners, etc. And we offer lines of working capital credit through our working capital business unit as well. And the pandemic and the year 2020 has been extremely interesting. We've seen a lot of very, very interesting changes. Obviously, the months of March and April were very tough months for the entire country and for the whole world. India was no exception. The fintech and the SME ecosystem, it was a tough period. But since the month of May onwards, it's been ek se badkar ek, from May all the way till October. And we have seen a lot of SMEs, a lot of startups gravitate towards digital payments. And we've seen that at Razorpay. We've seen some record-breaking acquisition momentum, across all of these months, which has been extremely interesting and heartening for the entire startup and entrepreneurial community in the country. The other interesting thing is that we are not just seeing more and more businesses come on board and embrace digital payments, but we are also seeing a lot of businesses come on board from tier 2, tier 3 and tier 4 in the country. It's not just about the Bangalores and the Mumbais and the Delhis, the Hyderabad, the Chennais of the country. We're seeing a lot of businesses come on board from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 and below, and who are servicing the local economy there. And in some cases also getting money from international customers, which is again very interesting. The other unique thing, Vinodji, that I would certainly like to talk about is the fact that we're seeing a lot of entrepreneurs who are coming on board who want to receive digital payments, but who have no idea about technology. They have no idea about how to code, but still they want to receive digital payments, which is why at Razorpay, we have launched a slew of what we call #no-code products, which entrepreneurs can start using without any integration hassle. Even if the entrepreneur does not have access to any developer, for example, or if the entrepreneur does not know anything about coding, they can still start using these products like payment links, which allows them the look and feel of a payment gateway or a payment page, which gives them the entire UX of a digital storefront or a payment button. All of these can be, without any integration hassle, can be used in under 5 minutes, literally. We've actually timed it. It's 4 minutes, 32 seconds, by the way. And they can start using a lot of these products, which is again a great thing. We are seeing a lot of SME startups, entrepreneurs who do not have a technology background gravitate towards these kinds of products, which is very interesting. The other really unique thing is the fact that a lot of businesses are embracing digital payments fairly early on in their entire life cycle. Earlier, the traditional life cycle was you come on board, you set up a digital brand presence first, right? You set up a website, you set up a Facebook page, you set up an Instagram page. Now businesses are in a hurry. They want to start receiving digital payments. The pandemic has accelerated this change as well. So they want to start receiving digital payments even before a lot of these digital storefronts, so to speak, have been set up, which is again interesting. And the overwhelming majority of new acquisitions that we at Razorpay make today are people who are embracing digital payments for the first time in their lives. These are not people moving over from competition. These are people who are embracing digital payments for the first time in their life cycle, and they're doing it fairly early on. Again, extremely interesting, extremely encouraging, not just for the fintech ecosystem, but for the overall entrepreneurial heartbeat of the country, which I think is extremely, extremely encouraging. A lot of these businesses, we're not just seeing more and more businesses come on board, but these businesses are processing more monies through the Razorpay ecosystem, which means these are not flaky fly-by-night operators, but these are businesses with strong business fundamentals in place, with strong product market fit. again, extremely encouraging signs as we crystal ball gaze towards the rest of the year.
Excellent. So, we will move forward. In fact, to Manesh, I'd like to go back to Manesh. We had a guy who, we had Saraswati from our women division. She said that, I want to know which is the best payment gateway for my online store, the apparel store. And Vednarayan quickly replied to her saying that it would be Razorpay, which is today India's largest with over 1 million MSMEs for various reasons, wider array of payment choices, etc., etc. So, is there a wide difference between all that is happening in the payment space today, or are these specific, I would say, apps available for specific purposes?
It's a good question, and if as an SME, this I definitely think that this would be a very relevant question, right? I mean, if I have to start accepting online payments, where do I start, and what's the difference between all these? I think you could break this down, and for a second I will speak not on behalf of Amazon Pay, but more as a payments professional or a payments practitioner. You could split this into 2 or 3 buckets, right? On the one hand, you have a lot of sort of payment providers, and there the level of innovation has been tremendous and led often so by by Ved and the team, Harshil and team at Razorpay. You have various different payment methods, whether they're credit cards, debit cards. Net banking is one sort of old payment system that still exists around, and you have all the different types of wallets. So you have a set of providers which are either called processors or aggregators, who can bring all these together for you, remove the hassles of reconciliation and tracking which payment method was how much, etc., and combine all of that to you and take care of that. So there are a bunch of providers, and Razorpay is also one of them. Then you have the second bucket, who also have, I would say, a consumer play, right? And this includes players like let's say Amazon Pay, and for example, there would be others like a Paytm or a PhonePe, etc. What they do is they have consumer footprints on payments. They have a destination where customers come and make different types of payments, and that identity can also be taken to various different merchants that they go to. So when you go to a website or an app, you can choose that different type of payment method, whether it's say a Amazon Pay or a Paytm or whatever. So you could have all of these options, but these are 2 separate ones. The first is like pure payments aggregation, and the second is where there is a consumer play, because these companies are often going out and signing customers on their behalf. Then there is a third way of accepting payments. It depends on what you want to do, and depending on the nature of your business, there is a sort of a behavior emerging where an online presence is more about browsing, and then there is a lot of closure that happens sort of off that channel through just UPI based transfers, and that's also emerging as a very interesting model. So you can go. I'll give an example. I was looking for a stone idol, and I googled it and found a sculptor or idol maker based in Chennai. And I called that gentleman. Of course, he advised me not to take a stone idol, apparently, because it's not advised for home. So he made something called as a Panchaloham thing. So the website exists. A digital payment service backing that product doesn't exist, because it requires an ordering solution and your ability to manage the inventory, etc. But the payment was digital. So the discovery, the experience, understanding all the bits, and then just the payment was used using a UPI based transfer. So that third option also exists, but you don't need a provider for that. You can do that directly. And I know that already a lot of the small and micro businesses might be doing it. So broadly, 2 buckets, Vinodji. In the first bucket, you will get a lot of the payment methods, but the innovations there are in terms of the customer experience and how settlements are offered, etc. And we had also referred to a couple of these these products that they've launched. It would work if they simplify the access. And in the consumer thing, one benefit that you would get is since these digital payment companies have consumers, they can help drive consumers to you. So if you accept that, then they can drive a lot of sort of discounts and visibility and marketing. To give you an example, we have more than 100 million customers visiting us every month. That are the number of eyeballs that we have on our app of Amazon in India.
Yes.
And there, for example, if you're a small business where you tie up and you might be just accepting a payments, but we can work with you to, for example, drive customers to you saying, hey, here's a great partner that we know, and you can do that. And that's how the second bucket helps, and on all these sort of wallet or payment apps. So broadly, I would say that in terms of the bank account supported, card supported, etc., it's largely 19-20 ka farak, I would say, but this is how the two options would be. I mean, would love to hear as well Ved's views as well.
Sushma has a question. She's just messaged me on the side saying that I have a question and I'd like to pose it to Ved. So to Ved Narayan. So Sushma, please go ahead and ask the question.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Ved. Many a times it so happens that
you are too away from the mic. Can you just bring the mic closer?
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, a little bit.
Okay, so it happens many a times that we order a material and we pay the money online and we never receive it. And I know once you cannot trace the guy, so we don't know whom we've paid to. And but one payment that I had done through PayPal, that got saved because the settlement had not happened with that merchant. So when I immediately escalated and complained, I got the money back. But not too many are lucky, or maybe they are not aware of it. But I know Razorpay settles the amounts in 2 days flat, or even lesser at higher charges. So how do we handle that?
So, I mean, that's a interesting question, Sushma ji. And if you look at the entire payments flow, there are multiple entities who are actually involved, right? There is the issuing bank, there is a payment aggregator or a payment processor or a payment gateway, the likes of a Razorpay, etc. Then you've got an acquiring bank, you've got all the networks in between, the Visas and the MasterCards of the world, etc. So there are multiple people involved, and there is an infrastructure railing as well, which is involved. At certain point, the money, although we see everything happening in real time in front of us, there are multiple hops that the money actually has to move across. There is an initial authorization loop that happens, wherein you actually make sure that the customer has the money. Then there is the actual settlement that actually happens. So there are multiple hops that the money actually flows through. And it could so happen that in a particular case, and usually it succeeds for 99.999999% of the cases. In some cases, in some few rare cases, the infrastructure could fail. But even in such cases, we do have fallback mechanisms in place, and we make sure that the customer's money is refunded. Quite often, this has happened to me personally as well, that I booked a ticket on IRCTC and my money is debited, but I haven't gotten my ticket. Right? I think a lot of us must have faced that scenario. And in fact, we had written this article which went viral a couple of years back on why do refunds take time. I'm just going to share that link over here. I would really encourage all of you to go through that. That explains in detail why do refunds take time. And there is also another really very, very well-written article which was very, very engaging, and it was a big hit with our entire customer base, which talks about digital payments in general, the entire life cycle of digital payments. I'm going to share both of these links here. Please do look at that. But the short answer, I just gave a short summarized answer to your question. I hope that answered your question, Sushma ji. The long answer can certainly be found in these blog links.
Cool. Okay, so, while adding to Sushma's question, my point is, which also we have Ruchika Kothari who has asked this question. Is there any way to validate buyer credit worthiness before doing sales? And are there agencies that are available to help do this when it comes to international sales?
That's a very interesting question. I actually saw that question and I was about to respond to it. So at Razorpay, we have some kind of a solution for domestic transactions, not so much for international ones. It's not exactly credit worthiness, but it solves a slightly different problem statement, but you could think of it as a surrogate for credit worthiness, so to speak. So at Razorpay, we acquired a company called ThirdWatch around 2.5, 3 years back, which essentially addresses this big problem that a lot of e-commerce companies face, which is on COD returns.
Yes.
Right. My friend Manish is from Amazon, and he would certainly know what I'm talking about. So a lot of e-commerce companies face this problem wherein there is a customer who orders something on cash on delivery, and when the item lands at his or her doorstep, they end up returning it, saying "Abhi mujhe ye nahi chahiye." Right? They return it back, which is a big reverse logistical nightmare for a lot of e-commerce companies. The bigger ones like the Amazons and the Flipkarts of the world are still able to manage it, but for us, if you are a small business who's running an e-commerce company, it's a big problem. It's a nightmare. So we had actually launched a solution which essentially has a huge database of lat long and huge customer databases as well, wherein it looks at historical customer buying patterns. So if there is a customer who is possibly a serial offender, right, who does this quite often in terms of ordering something on COD and then returning it back, right? This system would actually catch that. It has an AI, artificial intelligence based system using which this system can actually catch such instances, and it can raise yellow flags or red flags for the e-commerce company, saying, you know what, this is a suspicious customer. Ved Narayan is a suspicious customer. Do not enable COD for Ved Narayan as part of the checkout flow. Or before enabling COD, give a telephonic confirmation, right? Make sure that this order is genuine before you actually ship out this product. So this is a feature which is bundled along with our payment gateway offering and sold as a standalone, the ThirdWatch offering. But as on date, it is available only for domestic transactions though. We don't quite have international lat long or international credit worthiness. That's not something that we measure yet. Having said that, we do have...
So I think Manish wants to add to that. So he raises hand. So I'd like to take the same question to Manish.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I don't think there is a straight answer, and I don't think there is a ready solution, and I'll tell you the reason why. If you are accepting payments internationally, it depends on the country from which the payment is being done. And I'll give you an example. Payments done, if you need to pay, if you have a card in the US, and if you need to pay online, there is no concept of a second factor. So for example, in India, if you want to transact, you need to have an OTP or a password, right? So the regulator has mandated that every customer needs to, in addition to what the customer has, it's also about what the customer knows, which is called a second factor. In a lot of markets, the second factor does not exist, and therefore somebody using a card issued, let's say in the US, does pose some risk. What if that card is compromised, or what if the card doesn't belong to the buyer, and or that card doesn't belong to the buyer in the sense that the buyer is a fraudster and the card owner is someone else. What I would suggest to the community is that there are ready options or services available where you could do some fraud checks. So there are fraud check companies available. I mean, as part of Amazon Pay, we accept international cards, by the way, and we have those fraud checks in place because we have the benefit of a global system where any card reported anywhere in the world, which is risky, will go to the global pool, etc. So we do accept international cards, and we do have those checks in place. But these are available solutions that you. So that's a solution that you can use. You do need to check a card for an international card for any risk, flags. And how it's usually done is whenever a card is used online and a risk flag is thrown up, you put that order into sort of a semi state or a Trishanku state, and you just put it on hold and just do a manual check. Then there is a process to go back to check whether the card belongs, etc. And you can do a basic validation that you can do yourself. But such solutions exist, but they are largely for credit cards. When the payment method is not a credit card based payment method, but something else, I think it gets a little bit more tricky.
Excellent. So, with that, I come to the other part. We have loads of questions. I've got almost 20 questions on YouTube. So wow. I don't want to run out of time, but I'd like to go to Mr. Bajalia. So, Bajalia sir, there has been a constant churn as far as this space is concerned. I mean, is the regulatory mechanism keeping in tune with what is happening on the ground? जैसे सुषमा जी ने बोला कि कई सारे customers हमारे पास भी आते हैं कि भाई हम लोग ने we have bought something and it was worth 1,400 rupees or 2,000 rupees or whatever number, and the seller is nowhere to be seen. तो ये आपका member है क्या? तो we say भाई हमारा हम लोग check करके we say that no, he's not our member. But why don't you complain to the portal or but nobody is listening to those customers. So unless we develop some sort of a mechanism to handle these sort of queries, online will continue to be a little dangerous space when it comes to the consumer.
Vinodji, when we talk about the merchants, you see, this Reserve Bank takes care that if somebody plays fraud with their card, credit card or debit card, or they withdraw the money, they transfer the money. Now, in these type of transaction, generally, the customer has made the payment. That payment has gone for a particular product. Now, that product has not come or product is of inferior quality. I think in such cases, it has to be reported as a fraud. But Reserve Bank, for this sort of transaction, perhaps it may be difficult. If there are a lot of complaints, perhaps they can simply identify such type of companies and issue the instruction that such type of company should not be dealt with. But it is very difficult. If it is happening with their accounts, with their credit cards, when money is getting transferred, then a lot of mechanism is there in RBI and they are taking lot of precautions, even Government of India, and lot of things are happening. And wherever these type of frauds are otherwise happening, ombudsman is appointed who can within 24 hours or 2 days, he will decide about those type of transaction, how money can be recovered. These things are happening. But for merchant transactions, I think it is related with the merchant and between the client. Then through RBI, perhaps it becomes difficult.
So maybe we need to have some sort of a mechanism which internally all the payment companies may have to be able to put in. The other very important thing that people keep on asking us is that is there any requirement, and maybe Manish can answer this, or approval required from the RBI for an Indian seller to accept international payments?
Yeah, it is there, because you can accept through proper channels only. There are few channels through which you can accept the payments. It is not all, you can't accept that. So there, it depends on the amount. Otherwise, approval is required.
Manish, would you add to that?
I think there are a few payment gateways that are providing payments using foreign or internationally issued cards. To just accept a payment, my understanding is other than what approvals you already have for your business, because I'm assuming that you're not only doing this online, but just off your website also you would be accepting payments from clients based abroad on whatever is the other method that you use for that, whether it's a wire transfer or so. Specifically for accepting payments online through your website, you don't need, but as Mr. Bajaya said, what you do for your business as such, if you have had to take any approval, that approval stands. There's a slight difference when the role is reversed. When the seller is outside India and you are buying based in India, then there are other requirements, and there's a specific regulation that RBI has on how payments need to be collected from companies based in India, from customers in India for sellers sitting outside. But if you're a seller sitting in India and accepting payments from outside, just the fact of accepting online payments on your website, in my understanding, does not require any incremental. But as Mr. Bajaria said, for your core business, you would be doing it, and there must be some requirements there that you definitely have to comply.
Okay, there's Komal who's asked you, can Amazon Pay be integrated in a Shopify powered website?
Oh yes, It's a good call out, and it can be. Let me take that back.
Okay, cool. So I have another question from Kalavati. She says, I'm a Snapdeal seller for selling uniform materials and stitched uniforms. I receive orders and payments on Snapdeal, but my seller account is not able to access as the software or technology is not able to support my GST. So is there any soft upgradation or software that needs to be done to continue my selling? Kalavati, I am also not able to actually understand what is the question. It's a little bit of a long question, but if you can redo it there, maybe we'll be able to understand. Manish, if you are able to understand, or Ved, if you are able to understand, you can answer this.
I can try and take a shot at it. No, I mean, what I'm assuming is that in your seller portal or on the marketplace that you're selling that you mentioned, I think my suggestion to you is most of this is solved by these e-commerce marketplaces. So I would my recommendation to you is you should definitely reach out to Snapdeal, which you said was your marketplace. I think they'll be able to solve it for you. I don't see that as a big issue.
Okay. So the other question that I have here from YouTube is how can SMEs make their online payments more secure? Is the question, which is asked by Pranav.
Hey, Ved, you want to take that first, and I can go later.
What is that?
Ved, the question is from Pranav, who says that how can SMEs make their online payments more secure? Because it seems he's been prone to some data loss somewhere. So I think that's why he's asking this question.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that SMEs need to do is obviously if you can outsource all of your payment capture requirements to a payment gateway or a payment aggregator, not necessarily Razorpay, but anybody else. There are enough and more top players out there. I think that is one of the biggest things. If you can abstract away that level of complexity and focus on what you do best, which is essentially preparing the best possible product. I think that is one. Second is, as a basic hygiene element, make sure that you've got you're hosted on HTTPS, a secure server, and not just a HTTP. I think that also helps from a data security perspective. All of the PCI, DSS compliance, etc., all of the requirements that go with data encryption, data security are taken care of by your payment gateway, right, that you're integrating with. So you don't have to worry about all that. Just make sure that you at least have a HTTPS certificate at a bare minimum for your website if you're having a digital storefront. But these should be two key, quick points that I would like to make. Anything that you'd like to add, Manish?
No, plus one to that. In fact, I was just going to say the same thing with the payments leg, the security, the payments leg will be taken care by the payment gateway. So not to worry. Unless you're in your life cycle as an SME, you have slightly evolved and grown to a level where you start storing cards for customers. And that's when it gets a little bit into the PCI DSS and all that framework. But I'm assuming that that if that may be a bit further down the road. So the payments leg will be taken care by the payments provider. I think my suggestion to you is your website. Make sure it's some of the basics are checked out. One is, of course, make sure it's an HTTPS. The second is especially around how the website is hosted and where it's hosted. So, for example, if you say to a customer that it is a 400 rupee item, is the customer actually paying 400 rupees is something that, or initiating 400 rupees, or versus the transaction initiative is higher. So make sure you do that. Usually these days, even that aspect is solved, right? Because you have a lot of cloud providers where you can just host whatever you do, and they they can provide this security for you. I think those are just a couple of things to keep in mind.
So I go back to you, Vednarayan. A lot of people are saying, how do we enroll on Razorpay and all that? So for all of these guys, please give us a statement about how do they do that and what sort of support they can look forward to you from you, and a closing statement thereafter.
Sure, absolutely. So the simplest thing is please head over to www.razorpay.com. You'll find all the details you need there. And one of the greatest things that we have come to enjoy at Razorpay, which is again a testament to the fact as to how much the entire SME and entrepreneurial ecosystem in India is embracing digital payments, is this data point that more than 75 to 80% of our new customer acquisitions, which are new businesses, which we acquire every single month, come through self-serve, which means they come through without talking to any human being, without talking to a single salesperson. Because the entire process of onboarding is so seamless, it's so easy, it's so intuitive, and we have a whole host of these no-code products that I mentioned, so customers can come on board without actually speaking to a human being on the phone, which is a great thing. But if you do require some level of hand-holding and support, we also have an extensive sales and support team, which would be more than happy to hand-hold you through the whole process. The first step in your journey would be to head over to razorpay.com and sign up with your email ID. There are a bunch of formalities that you would need to fill out, wherein you would need to give a sense of what your business does, which category your business belongs to. These are mandated by RBI. We need to capture that information. Plus, we need to capture some KYC from your end, which would be your GST certificate, your company registration certificate, cancel check, bank account details, etc. That is something that we do require. It's mandated by RBI. So once you're done with all this, you can start receiving payments.
So I'd like now Manish to sort of give us a idea of all the people that have been asking whether I can do Amazon Pay even outside if I'm not a seller. So a closing statement, Manish, for all of them as to what exactly should they be looking forward to when they sign up with Amazon Pay, and what sort of both national and international exposure can they look forward to in terms of receiving payments?
No, absolutely. I'd be happy to. The most key message I want to pass is, please get online. It is more important for everybody that more small businesses get online. Customers are already online. All the digital payment methods are available. So regardless of which payment method you accept or who you choose to work with, it is more important that you get online. It will dramatically transform your business. And if there are any concerns that you have, please know that most of those are addressed. From my perspective, the festive season is going to act as a much needed sort of booster for MSMEs, for their businesses, especially given what's happened in the last few months, which I think we all want to just forget, right? And I was part of a very interesting forum where I happened to learn from one a thinker called Ben Al-Shahar, who said that people will either end up fragile or anti-fragile out of this crisis, and this is an opportunity for you to do so and come out anti-fragile. So it's a great opportunity. Digital provides you that opportunity because customers have dramatically and very quickly shifted online. So we've observed a visible increase in online shopping behavior, and specifically in digital payment behavior. So COD and how many customers used to choose cash on delivery, etc., has changed quite a lot since the pandemic has started. Right. Our approach at Amazon Pay is to support every MSME to accept and actually leverage the benefit of digitization by providing digital payments. Very happy to support in whichever way that you would like. We have an online payment solution. You can accept payments in stores, etc. AmazonPay.in is our website. Please do visit. If there's any way that we can support you, and you can just apply or leave your details there, and somebody can be in touch.
Excellent.
Vinodji, just a quick point, just on the topic of digital. I just remember this. My wife's cousin got married recently, and they got married over Zoom. It was a digital wedding. The priest was in one location. All of the attendees were in another location. They had a screen sharing of the shlokas which were being read out during the wedding. Luckily, the bride and bridegroom were in the same place. So the era of digital is here, and it's here to stay. That weddings are now going digital. So I just wanted to share that anecdote.
I was just checking up. We have 1,100 people listening to us. So that was a good relief.
Just one question I want to interrupt, sir.
Yes.
I was just reading certain questions, and there is one question by Dr. Mithila, which is an extension to what I asked Ved. I mean, once you realize that some seller has defrauded, so is there a way to blacklist that seller, or highlight it on any kind of a forum where this company gets blacklisted and cannot defraud any other company?
Yeah, you can do that. RBI offers such facilities. You can always identify such and complain about such sellers to the RBI.
It's that ombudsman which
Yes.
Bajalia sir mentioned
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Maybe PK, I mean, this goes out to Mr. Bajalia and Mr. Kakka, then maybe we can actually take a leaf out of our old book and talk to the RBI on this and set up some sort of a platform where people who have been cheated, because otherwise, these people that are cheating the others, the consumers, are actually muddying the entire water for those that want to do clean business. And that's why otherwise people shy away from spending online or paying online, which is a not a very good situation for a country like ours.
I think we can talk to RBI and take their advice how it can be done. Perhaps they can issue some instruction or they can guide.
PK, what's your say on this?
I was thinking that, when you import and export in the old days, you had to pay your money if you're importing something into an escrow account.
Yes. Escrow.
Okay. And then only when you got your goods and you approved it, could they actually release the money from the escrow account. Now that escrow amount actually functioned as an arm's one. That means that they were a third party who the money was given to in trust. Okay, and only when you said that yes, everything is fine, we've received the goods, that you actually release that money to the party that you're supposed to release it to. Why can't we do something like that in online payment, especially for large business payments?
No, this escrow
So,
account.
Kakkar Sahab, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Bajalia.
This escrow mechanism is mainly for large amount of payments. It is not for small payments when you are buying small merchandise. Because escrow is a three-party agreement with the bank, with the seller, and with the buyer, where they undertake that if he is satisfied with the quality and he gives the certificate, only then the money will be released to that person, and only then he gets. But for small transactions, doing escrow mechanism is very, very difficult.
Not at all. Not in the digital world. With AI, it's very easy.
In fact,
so I just had a point here. Since 2009, all digital payments where the goods being sold are physical goods and not digital services like recharges, etc. Let's say if you're selling something online, any payment gateway that you work with is mandated to work through something called as a nodal account. That nodal is equivalent to the escrow, apart from a small difference around bankruptcy, etc. But leave that, but functionally it's the same account. And therefore, when you accept a payment online or a customer makes a payment online, that payment gateway is supposed to make sure that they verify that the goods were delivered and the settlement was done in some time. Recently, the regulator also released a new regulation that comes into effect later next year, where that nodal will actually need to be in escrow. So that movement is already happening, and to a large extent, the nodal also provides some support and security for customers. So the trust is built into the system. Of course, I mean the implementation will always vary in how some aggregators or how processors would, but everybody has to stick to and go through audits to make sure that the delivery was done, and only after the delivery was the payment released to the seller, etc. So those are aspects that exist today from an ambit of what's in the regulation.
No, but what we are talking about is, even if it's not a B2B transaction, but if it's a smaller transaction from a B2C transaction, with the enabling from AI, why can't this become almost automatic and like a systemic placement? That until the person who is the consumer does not say that he is happy with the delivery and the product, that money is not released, and that becomes automatic. So everything goes through an AI system, which is a holding system, where you pay into that system, and then the person delivers the goods, and the goods are vetted, and the money is released. So everybody is happy because
That's a good suggestion. That's a good
yes,
suggestion, sir. I think it can be done. Technically, it can be done, of course.
of course.
Because we'll have to come together and figure out how to do it.
Presently, we are getting the message that your parcel has been delivered. Simply that message comes. Perhaps after that, it may be that I have found the goods as per my prescription. So I think that will be fine.
No, sometimes some people order something, somebody sends them a bar of soap. They've ordered something far more valuable, and they get a bar of soap.
Umpteen number of cases which have come.
Yeah, so if you do this kind of system there, then immediately you can pick up the fraud. Because the fraud does not necessarily happen from the dispatch department of the seller. It can also be done at the logistics level.
Yes, very correct.
My question now to Ved ji and Manish ji both. We have a question from one Mr. S. Sada. Could you please arrange a workshop to teach SMEs on how to integrate your payment gateways or how to integrate various payment gateways? So, are we able to do that? I mean, I'm asking both Ved as well as Manish ji. So, can we please organize this in the near future? It will be a great help to our members and all the entrepreneurs who have joined us today.
Yeah, absolutely. More than happy to facilitate that. And the short answer is that I can also give a slightly more elongated answer, which is 30 seconds long. Vinodji, it won't take more than 30 seconds. So I also serve as a marketing mentor. I work with various startup acceleration programs across the country, multiple TIE chapters, Atal Innovation Mission, etc. with the Government of India, a lot of entrepreneurship cells with various B schools, and where I essentially talk about digital marketing to a lot of startups and a lot of SMEs. And one of the consistent points of feedback that I hear from a lot of SMEs, a lot of startups in this day and age is that they feel a sense of intimidation, not just around digital payments, but around digital as a problem statement in itself, right? Digital marketing, digital brand building as a larger problem statement intimidates them to a certain extent. And they have a sense of curiosity around digital payments as well. So I'd love to conduct workshops across both of these problem statements. One is around digital brand presence building, digital marketing itself, something that I do pretty often with a lot of other startup acceleration programs, SME chapters. More than happy to do the same thing here, along with digital payments.
Excellent.
Plus one, happy to do it. Happy to organize whenever.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for that. Bajalia sir and PK sir, closing comments from you, please. Bajalia sir, from you first.
I think this was very interesting discussion today. And Mr. Ved Narayanan and Manish, they both gave us very fine inputs how this digital payment system is working and what are the I will say next Gen 10, what is going to see. And I think SMEs, they need support of you people because they supply the material and they have to wait for their payments. I think the way you have discussed, you have shown the way, I think it will be very good for SMEs. And perhaps, Sushma, we can arrange this type of more discussions,
Yes.
perhaps with the different type of entrepreneurs, maybe new entrepreneurs or growing entrepreneurs or women entrepreneurs. I think it will be very helpful to them.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes. In fact, I want to mention here that we are currently running a program for women entrepreneurs where we are going to help them migrate their business on e-commerce platforms. And I guess we will do a specific coaching for them on integrating these payment gateways for their business. So, of course, yes. And last, PK, from you, closing comments.
What the most interesting thing that I found about this whole thing is, number one, that if done correctly, your payments come much faster than your credit period. Okay, right now, sometimes you have to negotiate a credit period of 30 days, 45 days, whatever else it is. Okay, but with the digital system, there is no such luck. You pay and you pick up your goods, and there's almost 36 hours or 48 hours difference between the payment and the collecting of the goods. The second thing is, which is very interesting, is that all SMEs who are keeping double books cannot take advantage of this system. You're back to square one. So you have to be extremely transparent, and you have to have a single book, and everything has to be out in terms of transparency, because the advantages are far greater than the amount of money that you save in your tax, to be very honest.
Well, perfect. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It was pleasure listening to each one of you. I'm on behalf of India SME Forum and all our viewers who've joined us here. Thank you for being with us today. Thanks, Manesh ji, Ved ji, and of course all my beloved trustees and board members, Vinod sir, Bajale sir and Prahlad sir. Thank you very much. May this Navdurga bring all the success, good health and safety for all of us. So once again, happy Navratri, good evening and good night. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.